Welcome back to BLOCKTV. My name is Zachy Hennessy, and this is Crypto Craze. Now, happy Halloween to you, by the way. Maddie Greenspan recently tweeted, we're going to take a look at that, more people in the US Googling blockchain than, and that's a typo, but I'll forgive you for it, Maddie, the name of the Chinese president, which is, of course, Xi Jinping. Now, he backs it up with a little screenshot from Google Trends here, and as you can see, blockchain interest just really in the US over the past 12 months, just really way above interest in Mr. Jinping. So I figured, hey, let's take a look at that. Let's go a little more in depth and see what other kind of cool comparisons we can find. So over here we got some Google Trends, and we're going to start with a good old Bitcoin. So this is the last 30 days worldwide. We're an international, global community nowadays, Maddie. We don't got to stick to the United States. I know that's where the Silicon Valley is. It's where they film Mr. Robot. But we got to branch out a little bit and kind of see what we can do with that. So anyways, you got Bitcoin interest. It's actually been coming up recently now towards the end of the month. And as you can see, it's around the 25th, even the 22nd, but around this week that it kind of has started to go up, which is great news for all of us who are waiting for mainstream adoption, assuming that these numbers actually mean anything. 1 second, I have to burp. I burped. All right, now, the reason for this, I have it written on my sticky note, by the way. If you see me looking down here, it's because I'm a very professional guy. I brought my notes with me. It's because Xi Jinping comes out, he's like, hey, China's interested in blockchain. Not necessarily crypto, but people have seen it as kind of like China, entering the crypto space, and they're like, yo, that's great news for everything. So as you can see, that is reflected in the worldwide interest in Bitcoin searches. So just to give you kind of a baseline on Maddie's search, we're going to search also blockchain here as a search term. And you'll see that there's actually kind of a staggering difference between the interest in blockchain and Bitcoin. And that, that tracks. If you ask your grandfather, hey, what's Bitcoin, he'll tell you, but if you ask him what's blockchain, he'll be like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, as you can see, that's kind of reflected here. So even though China has explicitly expressed that they are interested in blockchain and not necessarily in crypto, as you can see, it's still, this is good for Bitcoin, in short. So there's that. Now I figured, additionally, it may be worthwhile. Maybe they're not just interested in Bitcoin. So let's take a look. Add in a little bit of cryptocurrency, and as you can see, even surprisingly, this is actually kind of surprising, even less interesting than blockchain, according to these charts, which is news to me. I was very shocked and surprised. Finally, we're going to add in China, and you'll kind of see that even though there's all this interest in blockchain and whatever, the green line here, this is search interest in China, and as you can see, it's just leagues above Bitcoin, which was just a moment ago our highest searched term. So here you can see 74% is China and 25% is Bitcoin. These are not percentages, but they're like search units, whatever Google Trends uses for their kind of situation. But yeah, it's still interesting to see this kind of spike, especially worldwide. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see actually one more kind of thing that I wanted to just double check is just a personal interest, but I'm here, so I just wanted to check that. That's okay. Well, that's kind of depressing. So we're gonna come down here and look down a breakdown by region. And as you can see, all the green stuff here shows that the most popular search term in all of these different colored areas is China. Interestingly, here in Turkey, 68% interest, over 27% interest in China, 68% interest in blockchain. So the folks in Turkey, I guess, are a lot more interested in blockchain than they are in China, at least on Google. So there's that. And it's actually kind of a close tie here in Poland as well. So kind of interesting to take a look at that. And of course, the nation that is the region, according to Google, that is least interested in searching for blockchain is that's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's Hong Kong, which is kind of you'd imagine that there would be kind of like a switch there, But again, you got to consider anything that's within China. They don't really use Google there. So even though the Hong Kong riots are happening there, I guess they're not using Google to search for Bitcoin, which kind of crazy. So there's that. Now we're going to look at specifically interest by region for each of these terms, okay, to kind of get an idea of who's interested in these things compared to other things. Here you have some up and coming Bitcoin searches. Nothing really interesting there, but you can see a little bit of interest here in the United States and Canada, and also in Russia. Hardly any in Russia, actually. But the most interesting thing here is that you'll see right here in the center, Nigeria, 100% search interest in Bitcoin, which is not surprising. I mentioned this to our very own Yona Hockhauser. He's like, yeah, well, there are a lot of scams that are based out of Nigeria, but I also wanted to focus on, there are a lot of really great things going on in Nigeria for Bitcoin and blockchain tech. Notably, I want to give a shout out rather to my boy Bitcoin Keith, the African Bitcoin Bull, at Bitcoin Keith. Go follow him. He's a guy you might have read a news report about who accidentally received $80,000 in Bitcoin, and he tracked down the guy who it was supposed to go to, and or rather who sent it, and he gave it back. So you got some great folks out here who are really making a change, and based out of Nigeria. So it is kind of cool to see that reflected in these search results. So I thought that was kind of cool. So anyway, we come down to blockchain, and this is also kind of interesting, right? So you've got moderate interest in United States, South America, Russia, but then one of the most concentrated areas is in China itself. So Chinese folks, or people based in China, are Googling blockchain, which is, it all adds up, is I guess the point there. Moving down to cryptocurrency, not a lot of interest except in Mongolia. So Mongolians kind of getting interested in that. Fascinating. Now China, what do you know? Chinese people are Googling China. Fascinating. Russia, hardly any search interest in this comparison, and also in the United States and Mexico. So that's kind of interesting. And also, if you take a look here at clowns, happy to say 100% search interest in the United States and 75 in Canada. I'm just hoping that eventually we can all kind of branch out from the North American region and just kind of let everybody know that we are not as scary as you may think, and we are trying our best to kind of fit in with the rest of you guys. So please just start to accept us. Anyways, that's kind of a little bit of a more in-depth look on what's going on with Google Trends and Google searches. The important thing to do or to remember is that if you look at this chart one last time, you'll see that there's such a big gap. So even though it feels like there's all this hype around, oh, China's joining, this means great things for Bitcoin. So far, this is the spike that we've seen in that. So as you can see, based on this gap alone, we are still very niche, not quite heading towards mainstream adoption just yet, but we can wait and see what goes on with that. So that concludes this look at Google Trends. My name is Zachy Hennessy, and you're watching BLOCKTV. Happy Halloween.